I am coming to you from my living room. So for those of you guys that are watching on YouTube, you're like, oh my gosh, it looks like a different scene. For those of you guys that are listening on the podcast and maybe just audio, you're like, hey, this sounds a little bit different. Well, I just wanted to switch up the vibe, get out of the studio. I just came back from LA. I was there for a week and went into a bunch of different studios. And, I was like, you know what? I was shooting in some people's living rooms, and I realized that when I was in a living room, the vibe and the way I communicated was different than when I was in the studio. And so I thought to myself, why don't I try a couple podcast episodes from my living room? Maybe the way I communicate will be a little bit different. Maybe my message will be a little bit different. And so that's what you might notice. It's a little bit different. But today I'm going to talk about the simplest way to reprogram yourself. And so I've been teaching this a lot recently. It's something I've been using on myself for about 6 years. And I want you to understand this about yourself. You can't always control your first thought, but you can always control your second thought. And if you have enough repetition of changing your first thought into your second thought over and over and over again, eventually, over time, your second thought, which is the one that you prefer, ends up becoming your first thought. And so that's really what we're trying to do. Is I'm going to teach you the simplest way today of how to reprogram yourself. And it's a very simple acronym that I'll give you. The acronym is A.P.R. A.P.R. And I'll go through this three-step process with you today. And the reason why this is important is when you look at a human, and I look at humans, I love people. I love figuring people out and sitting down with somebody and being like, why are you the way that you are? What happened in your childhood that made you the way that you are? And I try not to be too judgmental of people. I try to accept people. When I see people and I see an adult, what I realize is I'm really seeing a child in an adult's body. There's traumas that we've had. There's good times that we've had. There's bad times that we've had. And there are conditionings and programmings and patterns that we have that we developed in childhood. And there's nothing wrong with that. They serve their purpose. But at some time as an adult, we need to take a step back and say, you know what? I'm in control of who I am from this moment forward. And maybe I unconsciously created patterns when I was a child, and that's fine. But there are some patterns that I want to keep, that I love about myself, and there's some patterns that I want to change within myself. Why would God or the universe or life or whatever it is that's out there give me more if I'm so judgmental of what I already have? If I'm like, oh, it's not enough. I'm just a whiny little child, right? No, I don't have enough money. I need more. I'm not good enough. Why don't I have more? I deserve more. And so I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to switch my mindset around it from scarcity to abundance. And so what I started doing is every time that I would get a payment, and so I have an online business and all of that, is I would turn on my notifications on my phone so that every time I got a payment, a notification would come through. And what I would do, because I was trying to switch from scarcity to abundance and gratitude, is every time a payment would come through, no matter how big or how small it was, I would stop immediately what I was doing. I would take a second. I would look at the person's name who just put the payment through. And, I would say it was Sam. I'd close my eyes and I would say, Sam, thank you so much for trusting me with your transformation. I take this very serious. And I promise I will do everything in my power to try to help you get the transformation that you want. Thank you. And I would open my eyes and I would go about my day. What happened was I realized that over time I went from having a very scarcity, very woe is me, why don't I have more mindset, to being much more grateful for everything I had. And what was crazy is I truly believe that if you can't be trusted with a little, you'll never be trusted with a lot. And so what I realized is the more that I became a better steward of my money, becoming more grateful for my money, for thanking the universe or God or whatever it is that out there for my money, I started being able to handle more. I was given more to handle and more to be grateful for. The important thing about it, though, and I really want to hammer this home, is that we have accidentally programmed ourselves over the course of our life. And nothing will change unless you change. You are the only one that can reprogram yourself. And so what you need to do is you need to become aware of what it is that you want to change. You need to develop a practice of what it is that you're going to do in that moment when you find yourself in an old pattern that doesn't serve you anymore, and you need to have repetition. You need to do it over and over and over and over again. And it needs to be one of the most important things in your life. Because as you start to reprogram yourself, you start to change yourself. And when you change yourself, you start to change the way that you interact with other people, you interact with your family, you interact with your coworkers, you interact with your children, you interact with your mom, your dad, everybody. And so this is one of the most important things you can do. We were all somehow programmed as a child. As adults listening to this podcast, it's our turn to take control, to take our step into the driver's seat and to start to become the person that we want to become. And that's the simplest way to reprogram yourself. So if you love this podcast, please do me a huge favor. Please share it on your Instagram stories and tag me in it. Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. Hey, if you like the vibe of the look or the sound or the vibe that I'm giving off from my living room, send me a message. Let me know. Send me a message on Instagram. Let me know if you like the vibe and the look of it and all that stuff. Would love to hear from you guys. And I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make someone else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day.